That's always a good idea.
No, I like that. So that's the update there. I did get feedback from a couple of people. And it's in the older group. One of the people said, yeah, I don't know what this SOZO thing is, and maybe we talked about it a little bit last week, but, and I'm trying, and I asked my daughter, who's a pastor, and she's helped me understand it. That person's sort of like, yeah, but I'm more traditional, I'm not really into it. The other person was an older person that it's hard to get here. So it was, it's hard to get here, and I'm not really into the SOZO thing, so that's just some feedback around being clear about what it is. I think that's the takeaway. So just like we said last week, one of the things we want to do is get things up and around and just say, you know, here's what it is. It makes it really simple and easy. So I tried to do a little bit more, and I'll just show it to you. And yes, it's in red brief. Stuff like this, which is just a little bit of a roadmap that says, oh, what's SOZO, you know? And what did I say? I said, come in, come close, come forward. I mean, it's just goofy, but it's starting to just use common language and just say, boom, boom, boom. That's what we're talking about. So what is SOZO? What's the journey? Boom, boom, boom. Come in, come close, come forward. And we can, I'm good with us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same language as open, linked, and embraced, and yet it links to it. So everybody said, yeah, well, what does open mean? Well, come in. You know, so those things, I think if we put some simple stuff like that, simple messages, just different places, I think it'll help us. And I just did a little graphic on it, so you guys can look at that. And the other thing I ended up doing was, okay, so what's embraced, just as we were talking about, taking this little dinky process and putting a little bit of a roadmap graphic around it. And then I said EMBRACE. And so each one sort of has something. So E is each learning our gifts. M is moving closer together. B is building our knowledge. R is receiving healing touches, right? What, the icon?
No. I thought you were going the wrong way.
No. See, we even trip you up. So it's just it's a roadmap. It's like, oh, you want to know what embrace is? Oh, okay, here's some ideas about what it is. But it patterns after this. It's really trying to reinforce that, you know, follow up, serve, connect, you know, touch, grow, and we'll get language around it. But the more marketing-like material we can do like that, as just an example, and just put them around. I love the idea Nick had around, or I think this one. The billboard's a great idea. The other one was posters.
Yeah.
Posters around the church. One that says open. Here's what it means. Picture of somebody doing this or doing that.
Yeah.
And just start punctuating the ideas so people got it. Any thoughts around that?
Yes.
Go.
Last week I was talking posters, and it just occurred to me, you know, when people are in the sanctuary before service begins,
Yes.
we could have up on the screen,
Yeah, I know.
you know, that graphic that you just pulled out.
Yeah.
So, and you could do that every week for a while, and the people who are here every week saw it, you know, looked at it, read it the first time. But the people that are here once a month,
Right.
you know, who are catching up, it gives them something to read before service.
I think that was a big catch when you said occasional attenders, because prior to that, I didn't have any thinking around them. Our assumption, because we spend so much time here, is that, well, everybody's been here for the last 4 weeks, right? And they haven't, and that's why we're getting the feedback is like, so what is that? And explain it to me. The confidence you should have is that when you explain it to people, they're gonna get it. It's not hard, and it actually, they're like, oh, so we want to disciple people. Well, yeah, we've been here a long time and we've not used that word very often, right? And so they're clicking in, but we shouldn't take for granted that we've been through this process, so we get it. Nobody, you know, the people that are twice a month don't get it. Hattie Davis doesn't get it, because she doesn't come that often. And it's funny, because I said that. I was talking to Tara, and she said, well, that's just because she's not here often enough. And you see how you can get to, and I'm not dinging her, but you can get to this position of, well, they're supposed to be, what's that phrase? They're supposed to be. Good morning. Woo-hoo. I know, don't look at the legs, don't look at the legs. And the black socks, those are special. But we've gone native, right? We can get to the point where it's like, so why the heck wouldn't she know that? Well, she legitimately doesn't come every week. So that sensitivity to people who come but don't come every week, I think we actually have to get more sensitive to it because that's the culture. The culture isn't that people are regular attenders. That's probably a minority of the group. And the majority of people are gonna be sort of casual, when I wanna come, I come kind of thing. Any thoughts about that? You guys agree with that?
I do too. I think we have several people that go to different churches.
For any number of
Which,
reasons.
you know, which is, I don't think that's a bad thing. And again, we can't look at it as we have a monopoly on people.
Right.
Because then again, that's not what God wants us. We serve them when they come
Yeah.
and
That's
bless
an
them.
It's
interesting,
definitely
And
hard.
bless them and leave, because it'll get to the point where they wanna come more often.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to not get frustrated.
It is.
but it is.
I think we're all like maturing in that aspect to kind
Great.
of just step back and be like, okay,
It's all good.
yeah, like,
No,
as long
I-
as we're moving forward and people are catching on to it and exposing themselves to it, that's all that should
I think you
matter.
can look at it
I think
as
it's
a
a great
feedback to
perspective.
yourself.
Mhm.
Kind of
It is.
kind of doing.
Yeah.
No,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
That feedback is actually positive, even if it's negative. Because it's like, well, okay, so you're talking to me about it.
Right.
People sat me down for lunch. It was just like, okay, so let's talk about this because I don't get it. And my first reaction was, what do you mean you don't get it? We've been talking about it since October. October. It wasn't just January. October we were, you know, and people saying, well, I don't know that I get the name. Well, why didn't you tell me you didn't like it? That was my gut reaction. Why didn't you tell me that? So-and-so, somebody that's been here for a long time was like, I don't like the name. Well, why didn't you tell me that? You know? But it was like, okay, got it. Let me help you with it. So a little bit more explanation and the why. And then it was like, but I'm good. If you don't like it, I'm okay with it. I did come out of that conversation saying, but I'm still moving forward.
But then it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain this quite, but it's a relationship. It's like, you know, why would somebody tell you they don't like it?
I agree. Great. Keep going.
You know?
I think you're hitting a really good point, which is, it is an indicator of the relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when people are like, well, I'm not really comfortable coming to you with negative news, that means they ain't as
Right.
close to you as you think
Right.
they
Right.
were.
Right.
And so it's back to this thing of casual attenders. What are they telling you? I'm not that bought in. I have other things. I love your phrase around, we don't have a monopoly on people. I love that. Because it does, if somebody said that to you, how would you respond to a church when you said, you know what, I don't have a monopoly on her? What would you do differently, or what would you focus on? What do you think? I don't have a monopoly on her. So I'm one of many things that she balances and does. You know, the days of my church may have diminished some. You know, what would I do? How would I respond to that? If that becomes a reality, it's like I don't have a monopoly on the people that go here. Any thoughts? Why are you laughing? Is it a drug deal?
Sharing their own little bubble.
Showing off. What's that?
We're showing off.
You got a 10% of that. You do know I get 10% of that.
Now, I did the other 10%.
Yeah, there you go. Anybody got dibs on the rest of it?
Logan's collecting the 10%, right?
Yes, man.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you have to ask why.
That's great.
Why you don't.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. That's a self-reflection type thing.
Yeah.
And a moment to kind of have a conversation with your Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
Okay, what else would you, that money's making me nervous.
That money?
That was for you, by the way.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Didn't see it. I almost didn't see his head because it's camo.
Yeah.
What do you think? So if somebody says that to you, you don't have a monopoly on people.
I don't think we should have a monopoly on people.
Why?
because I think that we offer what we feel God wants us to offer them,
Mhm.
but we are not the Holy Spirit, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just thinking of a monopoly as you come here and this is the only place you can buy into and you can't be served anyplace else and you
Yeah.
can't. That's the way I look at it when you say monopoly.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if we offer what we feel God wants us to offer, and we do the open arms and embrace and the link, and we follow the path that we feel that He has set before us,
Yep.
monopoly's not in there.
Yeah, okay. So do what we do.
I guess I
Be
see.
clear on what we do and do what we do. Yep.
If you're thinking in terms of embrace, that's very intimate, that's very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, how are you gonna embrace people if you're not close, if you don't have a close relationship with them?
Mhm.
And that's the context that I see.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
No, I get
I
that.
see.
No,
Yeah.
it's that aspect to it.
Yeah, I see.
And how are you gonna, but it's the question, because you don't. It's just like somebody saying to me, look, I don't like the name. And me reacting, saying, well, why didn't you tell me? So all of a sudden, it was like it put a little, honestly, it put a little distance between me and them. It's like I thought you sort of like, you know, had our relationship to where you would tell me that. And so, yeah, there is the wake-up call of, okay, so we ain't that close at that level. It's a different kind of relationship than I thought, and maybe I got more work to do. I think one of the things you say is, this is hard work.
Yeah.
This isn't just, you know, you just open the doors, and although you do open the doors, it's not just easy. It's not easy. And it really takes everybody's effort to actually engage it. Right? So that's the message, one of the messages it sends me. You know, relationships are hard work. They take time.
And you know, it's this, SOZO is a whole change of mind
Yep.
too. I mean, people think it's just it's not just our name. It's gotta be our walk, it's gotta be our talk.
Yeah.
And we even as a group, we're not SOZO yet. We're still working it out ourselves.
Yep.
You know, every day, it's still a journey. It's like another journey in our walk, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what's the logical, really obvious next step? If we're not there.
I mean, we're trying to bring other people on, but we're not there ourselves, so we have to work to be more there within us.
Agree. I think that's a
I
simple.
wouldn't say we're not there.
No, I
I'd say
agree.
we're still
You can't.
working towards it.
Yeah,
I think
At least
you always are. though.
We always will be.
that's.
When do you ever arrive?
That's my,
Exactly.
yeah.
So the not there is cool, but then we all have to be very mindful of how we deal with each other. I think we did that, but all of a sudden, the reality of this vision requires that I'm careful with what I say to you and how I deal with you. Not only you, but anybody else in this church. I think the punctuation here is if we don't have a monopoly on people, they can go buy something somewhere else, right? So you gotta be right.
I think we're just to the point where we can start bringing people in. Like
Why?
inviting people.
Why?
Because I think we're all getting a better understanding of what SOZO actually means to us as a church
Yep.
and as people, which I think is like a very exciting time because we are all wanting to invite more people
Yeah.
to see the change and to feel the change.
Except for Mike here. Oh, hey, guys. And, yeah. No, I mean, that excitement should cause us to draw people in, and we should be excited about inviting them. And when we get to the point where we don't feel like we are, we need to talk about it. Right? And I think that's something that the church prior to this had a challenge with. I remember sitting in meetings and on people that were in the staff that was like, I'm not comfortable bringing people here.
Yeah.
So that's something you gotta deal with, man. I mean, it's not, for all of a sudden, we're realizing how doggone important that is. It's such an indicator of, are you with it? Do you like it? Where are we with this
Well, it's
thing?
also like the love and care that we put into the church in general, because some of the time it's you don't want to invite people because of embarrassment,
Yeah,
of where the church maybe used to be.
Mhm.
Whereas now is everyone is so proud of like how far we've come and the new changes and stuff, where it's like, you want everyone to see that.
Yep. And it is that opportunity. And so the people, and the other encouragement is, look, the people that weren't bought in before, and you didn't know it, now's a chance to make sure that they're bought in this time. Does that make sense? Because number one, the change is forcing them to vote. It's like, well, I either like it or I don't like it. It's better than it was before, or it's not. So now I've got you engaged in a conversation, and I can get your input, but then I can sell you a little bit. It's like, yeah, but do you get why this is? One of the people I was talking to, my conversation went from what SOZO is to how that person engaged their children in this ministry. It jumped over. I was like, well, wait a minute, and here's why. Because if I don't have a monopoly on people, I really have to be clear about the relationship with those people. And I have to, I'll just use the word covenant because, you know what, I gotta know what kind of relationship we got.
Yeah.
And so and any relationship requires something on both sides.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I get it, you don't like SOZO, but I'm glad you're telling me. But hey, wait a minute, man. All the young people are involved. Do you know why that is? And then I ended up, and they were like, well, I don't know. I was like, because we said we were going to keep them with us, perfect this, work together, and where's your kid? I didn't say it like that, but it was a provocative thing to say, hey, wait a minute, where's your part of the covenant, man?
Yeah.
Your part of the covenant is where are you and your kids in helping us get to SOZO. And I think we can be better about that. I think our standards have been so low, we've had no requirements at all for you to be here or be connected.
Correct.
Anybody agree with that?
Yeah.
We've had no standards. I will do everything for you, I'll come to your bedside, I'll do all this stuff just to convince you to come back. It's like, no, man, how valuable is it, what we're doing? And if it's valuable, hey, you know what, Gail, you got a part to play in this thing. You do. And so where's your commitment to what we're doing too? I'll help you understand it, you have a part in it, but it is SOZO's winding it together, not just hanging there. Go ahead.
Yes.
You guys agree?
Agreeing.
And you can even use the model that we've got. I mean, that knot is tying it together, not just hanging out and being, casual about it. Now, it is also okay for it to be more than casual. Everybody okay with that? I actually believe we want people to be more than casual attenders. But there's a process to get them there. We all got to be committed to that process. And so if you've been here 30 years and you're a casual attender, we got to figure that out. And we got that. Everybody knows we got that. Lots of casual attenders, probably a bigger chunk than we ever imagined. That's why you opened my eyes. It's like, casual attender, what is that? And then I was like, well, I started making a mental list. She is, he is, they are, that person is. I started making a list. There's lots of casual attenders here. And that's our challenge. It's not their problem per se, but we don't have a monopoly on them, so we gotta get to work. Thoughts?
I think it kind of, there is a part of it that starts with us as leaders in our heart towards the church and our commitment. At the beginning of 2017 and even before that, I think we were very much in just a rut, and we talked about this, just
Absolutely.
come in, do our thing on Sunday.
Yep, and go out.
And go out, and, it was just a routine type of a thing. And when the leadership's heart for the church is kind of there, the congregation isn't gonna get
They ain't never
any
gonna come
higher
back.
than that.
Yep.
And so it turned out to where a lot of people were going to other churches
Yep.
because they felt more connected, they felt more passion, they felt, ours was just kind of a come on Sunday, clock in, clock out kind of a thing.
Yep.
And I think one of the big things that I've seen as we've gone through this process with SOZO is the heart of the leadership in the church begin to change and have more of a mentality that, no, I'm really here. I'm really committed to this place, and I want to build this place. I want people to feel loved and everything else here, and it's more than just a Sunday morning thing. And I think that as our hearts have begun to change in that, and then that begins to flow into the people that are actually starting to attend, to start to see a little bit more of a spark of life. And hopefully, I think hopefully that we would start to cut down on a lot of that casual attender stuff.
Agreed.
And, you know, though we don't have a monopoly on money or on people, or money.
That either, well, this guy.
And we do want to be kingdom mindset. You know, it's not about SOZO Loveland and our church and only our church. It's about building the kingdom as a whole. And you know, if somebody comes in and they hear the gospel here, but yet they leave here and they feel more connected to another church down the road, awesome. At least they're going someplace.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I think that we need to be clear that ultimately, I think our goal would be for people to want to come here.
Absolutely.
You know, if we are just okay with people just half-heartedly coming here, but yet they go to the church down the road and they go, you know, the problem that I see with having that kind of mentality is if they're not fully committed here, they're not going to be able to help us go where we're trying to go.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's when we fall into the problem of, well, we don't have enough volunteers in the children's ministry.
Sure.
Why is that? Well, because people aren't committed to this church.
That's right.
You know, they just come on Sunday, clock in, clock out, and they go, you know,
Go somewhere
next week
else.
they go somewhere else. I just think that as a leadership, you know, we need to be clear on what we really are hoping for people to do here.
Yes.
In the sense of how much we really do want them to be engaged.
Yes.
Though we're okay with them, like with these guys, you know, they go to you know, the other church on Sunday evenings, but their heart's here. You know, they go there, they have relationships, they enjoy going there, but ultimately when you ask them what's your home church, they would say this church.
Yep.
You know, they're committed here.
Yep.
And so I think that we need to be okay with having that expectation too, and I think that's what I'm hearing, but
Yeah.
I think that we all need to be clear that it's okay to have that expectation of people. It's not,
Yes.
you're not selfish, you're not, you know, it's not, you're not being about, oh, it's only SOZO and nothing else.
No.
That's not the heart, but it's okay to say, no, but we do want you to have this as your home church.
Amen.
You know, we want you to be committed with us and walk linked arms with us.
Amen.
You know, even if you have relationships somewhere else.
Amen. That's absolutely right. And I love the way you phrase that. We have to be committed in our own hearts that it's okay to expect the commitment from people. And we won't get anything done without it. I agree with 1,000% with what you said. And you go back and you say, without commitment and everybody being a casual attender, not only can you not get volunteers, but you can't do anything powerful for God. Can't do it. When push comes to shove, something bad happens, we need 50 people in there praying, guess what? There'll only be 2. Okay? And we can say, well, you know, people are bad. And that's that's where your flesh gets in. Because your tendency will be, well, those people, you'll do that, trust me. It'll play in your head for at least a second, and then you'll resist it, and you'll say, well, wait a minute, that's not a right attitude. But your first response, because your flesh will be, well, they're not. We didn't need them anyway. No, you do need them. But what you needed from them was a little bit of a commitment about how we're going to work together so that we can work together. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how to form these words, but it's almost like what I hear is that I hope that we're not in the mindset that we need people to be committed in order for another motive, in order to get something.
Got it.
Because that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, I think that if we're gonna be leaders and servant leaders,
Yeah.
then we need to be able to manifest the relationship that we've got with God, and we need to be able to portray the fact that, you know, we've got this relationship with God.
Yep.
It's so good.
Yep.
It is gonna be so good for you. You know, we need to be so bought into that we need to, that people see that and wanna be committed. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
You are, but can I push on you a little bit?
Okay.
You sound like an embracer. It's not a bad thing. Because I would say, no, you need all that. Because by the time I get here, here's what's gonna happen. You ain't gonna like what I may ask you to do.
Yeah,
It's gonna press on your life, and you gotta be committed to doing it.
yeah.
And so, but I gotta get you there to your point, it's the life of God in me that
Yeah.
would encourage you to even consider that. But then it'll be, look, I may need you to change some stuff in your life. By the time I'm linked, I'm pushing on your life. You may not like that. And it may, you love me from the day I was born, but now I'm requiring things. So is that fair?
Yeah.
So I think it's all of that. It's, number one, I gotta be able to accept you for where you are.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not gonna change you coming in the door.
Right.
Right? Shut up about that, right? But at some point, I'm trying to build a relationship
Yeah.
with you.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reason for the relationship, I actually am not bashful about saying, the reason for the relationship is to get something done. But here's why, that's what Jesus said to me. That's what he said to me. He was like, the reason for the relationship is to eventually to get something done. What it looks like is, when I first came to Jesus, he didn't have a whole lot of huge requirements on me except to change me. And so he worked in me to get me cleaned up and get my head right. I mean, that's what he did. But at some point he said, now I want you to step up.
Yeah.
And he said, now I want you to be a cell leader. And he kept doing that. And he kept saying, no, I want you to now obey me and do what I ask you out of love. And it's going to push on you. It's not going to be stuff you would necessarily do.
Yeah.
So that's the only, is that fair?
Yes.
But I get you, I 100% agree with you. This part, man, I'm drawing you in not for a purpose, but because of God.
Yeah.
Because God loves you and I want you to be there. But that's a beautiful articulation of actually what we're trying to get to. Is that fair? But keep us, huh?
I'm sorry.
I know.
Okay.
Thank you. School teachers always do that too. Nancy does that too. We gotta train people out of that, right? My spell checker would do it too. But is that right? You guys good? Because these are exactly, to your point, if we don't agree on these basic things, we can't go further.
Yeah.
And then people will be like, so, no, Nancy told me something different. I don't buy that. Well, okay, so let's articulate it in a way that we're gonna get there. Good. Good. Yes, it's okay for people to expect some kind of a commitment through grace. It's absolutely okay. It's how you get there becomes critical. All right. Any other thoughts? Did we beat that one to death?
No.
Was that good?
Yeah.
So again, some of those graphics are around. Share them. We gotta do more of them.
Yeah,
But
we
they're
have to
helpful.
have things in people's faces. And we got plenty of useless bulletin boards
We
Well,
we ripped all those down.
in the hallway.
Kidding.
I mean, let's
I
put,
like the one right there. It's
Yeah,
not-
I mean, there's some that are good and some were terrible. So
I
we're,
mean, we put things on them because they were there. Let's put
Yeah.
things on them that are meaningful. Let's put things on them that are like that. Something
Yes.
that hits people in the face all the time.
I agree.
Something with the ODL, let's put something out
Something.
there.
So everybody's good with that. It really, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying we should get flags in the sanctuary.
Please.
The hanging by the lights, open and braces.
Yes.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I like that.
Do the flags. Who's gonna do that?
Log.
Logan's
All
got,
posters and stuff. Good job, Logan.
if you go to Redmond, he's got a list of things that there's like 10 things.
I don't know.
Why?
So he's got to push them through.
What have I not
You're
done?
working on them.
What have I not done?
That was one.
I mentioned early too that I think that we need to still try to come up with kind of like little logos or emblems for each of those as well.
Yep.
So that anything that we do that would involve open arms, if we have some sort of poster or whatever, kind of put that little stamp on it. Just another visual piece for people to start to grab onto. You have the kind of little symbols that they begin to see more and more and more that kind of represent each of those categories.
I absolutely agree with that. So between the SOZO Kids thing and the branding of the OEL, yeah, let's get something that's funky but clear. And really our push is, we have lots of people that are still coming in and out. We want to be clear with them, and we actually want to build the relationship back.
And Logan, I can start to work with you on that stuff too, between you and Sarah and me.
That's the only
But
hard
I
part
can,
is.
but I can do some design work as well.
Yeah.
So it's not all in What,
17 years, right?
It was like 24.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Design
17
school.
years in design school.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even know where that came from. We were sitting around, somebody had asked me, they're like, "So how many years did you go to school for design?"
That's, now that you say it right, I'm like,
So we just built it from there. It's been
Ah.
like 50 some years.
yeah. Before he was born, he was in the
Long
womb
time.
and he was thinking about design.
Yeah, I think just with, Sarah Carter just got a full-time,
I know.
another job, but she does amazing work, so I think
She does.
between him and I and Sarah, we can do a good amount.
Good.
But I also want to get like a full-time like graphic designer.
Well, what does that mean? I don't know what
Like
that
a
means.
full-time person who's like comes to a Saturday meeting and kind of like
Oh, I see what you're
has
saying.
that piece where they can like hear something and then go off and create it. Like, I can do that to an extent. I'm not a professional in Photoshop or Illustrator or any of that. Like, I've helped with John and Sarah.
You got rid of design.
No, not second.
Not even for a second, right?
So I would love to eventually find, even if it's like Steven's like design company, like someone who could constantly kind of be checking on us and like giving us new,
How many of you agree with that? And do we understand fundamentally why that's so critical?
It's like that commitment thing.
It really is, yeah.
Communication. It's all about communication. And that's what the graphic stuff is.
That's really what it is.
Well, it's so easy to see something and connect with it. It's more than, like, Dustin talks about the attention span thing all the time.
Yeah,
Because
real
if you're
short.
scrolling something and you see something, you're gonna know in a few seconds if you wanna sit and watch it or read it
Very true.
before anything. So you have
Well,
to grab people.
And it also ties into the consistency of the look and feel, so that when somebody sees something, they're like, well, like the pizza guy.
Yeah, I know, that was a great example.
Oh, I know that shirt. That shirt is this church.
That church down there.
And it's not just sporadic. One moment it's looks like this, and the next moment it looks like that, and nobody really ties it back to, oh, that's SOZO logo.
Yep.
I know what that is.
Yep, yep. We are not turning back. Let me just punctuate it. We ain't going back to living word, okay? No, I don't mean that in a negative way, but I'm proud of what it is.
It was
We're not going back,
Yeah.
okay?
Tendency.
This was on purpose, and anybody who challenges it, I'm like, do you even know what the word means? That's where I take them. It's like,
Yeah.
well, no. It's like, well, let me explain it. And then I'm like, no, dude, this is incredibly powerful. So just to reinforce that, when people push, it's like, we're not going back there. Because you think about it, the communication we had on Living Word was zilch. It was another church, okay? That's boring and it gets lost in the sauce. It does. It's just like, no, we want to be standout. So yeah, and people, and again, the only reason I articulate this is because I'm representing our generation. Our generation has a hard time understanding why this is so important and what it's for and why are we wasting time on this. They don't always tell us that. But in their minds, it's like, why are we wasting time on this? Are we getting the, yeah, what?